Thank you. In that case, I believe everyone is here. So with that said, we can begin the round. On the motion, this House believes that international sporting events should remain depoliticized. Let's invite Prime Minister on stage. Here.
First speaker of government now speaks.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. Beginning in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Hello and good evening to all of you, dear debaters. I hope you had your meal and everything. Sorry, I'm in a position. Okay. So the topic, the motion of today's debate is should politics be involved with international sport events, or may I say the whole motion itself? The international sporting events should remain depoliticized. Now, the reason we believe, yes, we are completely agree with this motion, and we believe that sport competitions should not, international sport competitions should not be involved with politics, is because where do you draw the line on this motion? Like, if you want to say politics should be involved with the sporting events, are you talking about if a country got involved in a war, they should not be allowed in being in the sport events? If that's the case and you're trying to punish the people who did wrong for other country, who is bad to you and who is good to you, how do you make the assumption and judgment that who should be allowed to be in the competition and who should not be allowed? Because no country ever is completely innocent. Most countries, even United States of America, that is like the biggest defenders of human rights, are involved with death of thousands, if not millions, of innocent people in the past few decades. So if you want to involve politics with sporting events, international sport events, the first question is, where's the line? How do you decide? The second thing I want to talk about here is that uh, where oh, actually, yeah, my background is not good. I'll change it later. So the second point that I really want to emphasize here is that when we say politics are involved with international sport, international events, we're basically discriminating the entire country based on a few amount of people. For example, how Russia got disqualified from the World Cup this year. They got disqualified because is my voice clear? Okay. Because they got disqualified only because that country, the government, the president started a war against Ukraine, which is totally unfair against millions of people who worked so hard to put international football of Russia into the World Cup. But just because of action of few people, millions of people's efforts completely got lost. And the last point I really want to emphasize here is that the motion doesn't just mention the national sports, it says international sporting events, which includes something like UEFA Champions League, a footballing event which is international, which from all around the Europe, the countries send their clubs to compete in the biggest tournament in football, UEFA Champions League. Now, if you want to bring politics into this competition, it becomes a race of who's the bigger country and a prestige competition. Each of the governments will put billions of euros, if not dollars, budgets into their own country to make their clubs from that country the best, to in order to win in the international sport events and make their country look great to everyone. Now, what that does is that it ruins the beautiful sport. The sport that's about passion, about love for football, about the competition that's beautiful for and inspiring for millions of people, all of a sudden becomes a competition and race for different governments to show their strengths and muscles and their budgets and make their clubs great. So these are the negative effects about involving politics into sporting events, international sporting events. Um, with that said, I would like to conclude my point making. If there's any Q&A, I am more than happy to listen to. Yes, please.
Please please explain how depoliticizing, or even in your case, politicizing something would just make it a prestige competition, because it doesn't correlate in any sense.
It does correlate if you think about how history of humanity has worked. The governments have always used all of the opportunities that's been provided to them to prove how powerful they are. In any sort of events, especially in the more third world or developing countries or dictatorship who want to prove that they are amazing countries, even though they're not, it turns into a competitions of muscle showing to prove how great their country is. The thing about the politicians that's always stood out that they are not the people who would like to play clean. They are the people who want to fight to be the best. And if you bring politics into international sporting events, what it does is that it ruins the friendly competition and turns it into wars between nationalities in any sporting events. It's not just about football. Or like we can take NFL, for example, if you bring all of the nations involved. Politics should be separated from sporting events, just like how everything should has its own place. If you bring two things that's not really related to each other, politics is completely separate to sport in every single measurement. And if you bring those two together, it won't have a good match. It will only lead to chaos. With that said, I will conclude my uh, speech. Thank you very much for listening.
All right, thank you, Prime Minister, for that fine speech. Now let us invite Leader of Opposition for the debate. Hear, hear. Leader of Opposition, are you here?
He is here. He just has a little problem with his connection.
All right, all right. In the meantime, may I know opposition's motion ranking? Which motion did you veto?
On side opposition, we vetoed the third motion.
All right, thank you. Is the Leader of Opposition ready?
Hang on a sec. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, it's because my laptop is, I don't know what happened. I cannot see or hear anything from my laptop. So I'll just have to, I'm on my phone now. I don't really think you can see me either, but I'll just present this way. Is that okay?
Yep, it's okay. No worries.
Okay. Okay, let me get my stopwatch. Okay, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we see that side government, I feel, has completely missed the mark on what should be actually debated here, and who are the stakeholders, and what is actually the benefit of politicization here. Because I feel like they have severely misunderstood the motion and are talking in a very, very specific case. So the main thing that I got from side government is that they want to they don't want to involve any sort of politics in sports because of the whole Russia-Ukraine issue. This is the thing that I get the most from side government, because all I hear about is if a certain country does bad things towards another country, or if a country does bad things because of their leaders' actions, where do we draw the line, and do we like punish the people of that entire nation just because of the actions of their leaders? Yes. Why do we say this, and why our stance clear on this particular issue is that if a country is being war, or is if a country is waging war against another, it's only fair to impose sanctions on them, right? And I feel like this is not a very good case to debate upon, because it's a very specific issue. I'll bring upon how we characterize the motion as side opposition. So international sporting events can not only mean international sporting events generally are like F1, football, tennis, badminton, and so on. So what is politicization in our side of the house? So we believe that politicization mainly revolves around the promotion of certain topics and ideologies. It is to promote these values through the games, and it can be anything from hot and current topics to issues that are severely lacking, or issues that need to be addressed in certain countries. For example, we can look at the Qatar World Cup. We can look at F1 and how they promote certain issues in countries such as Saudi Arabia, etc., etc. So, how do we, as side opposition, would like to politicize the sporting world? Is that teams, athletes that can include famous people, like very, very famous people, prominent people in the sport, like Lewis Hamilton, Ronaldo, etc., and the whole sport itself, taking a stance, or promoting a certain ideology that they feel like is problematic in current status quo, right? So this could include anything from like taking the knee for Black Lives Matter before the game, or like highlighting certain LGBTQ plus rights in the FIFA World Cup football that previously we mentioned before, right? So in our side of the world, teams and players are free to show their political alignment towards any certain political issue, which is not possible on side government, because they want to depoliticize the whole sporting scene, and no free speech is possible through their side. So what are the stakeholders? We feel like it's very clear: global citizens who face any adversaries. And if we look at it, right, what are the changes, like aside from the sanctions between Russia and Ukraine? Because we feel that this is like a bit off topic, because sanctions can't really what do you call it, because it's a very one-off case. So what are the changes that would happen in sport if we decide to politicize it? Nothing much changes, because what are the effects of politicization? Even in like Formula One or football, it's usually just the first 5 minutes of the race, or the first 5 minutes of the match. And it could be something like the NFL that was taking a knee during the national anthem. So the game itself remains intact. The sport itself remains intact. So uh, oh wait. Okay. I think I'm a bit more clear now. So we believe that these sporting events as a whole should be an avenue where political ideas are discussed, an avenue where political ideas can be globally staged. Why? Because
Yeah.
when these sort of yes, I would accept that.
Don't you think adding these political agendas or feelings that one group accepts and the other group doesn't accept ruins the friendship and sportsmanship that sports should be about in the first place? How sports are meant to bring people closer to each other. If you bring more politics into sports, doesn't it ruin the entire premise of sports, what they are supposed to be?
Okay, no, I would explain on your POI further, because it is a very prominent thing in my speech. So, as back to my points, because why we believe this politicization is necessary is because it needs to reach a global audience. in order for you to properly have a discussion, in order for you to properly have a debate about anything, you need to have a certain understanding or have a certain exposure to the issue. Politicization looks like this. These are the issues, let's say Black Lives Matter, whatever, and why should you care about them? It's not about forcing anyone to adopt anything, right? So it's simply a way to merge different ideologies through sports. We are talking about sports here, and sports is like a very is the only common ground we can find to like within all of these nations, right? And it also, like, through this global audience, we help to spread the word about tragedies as well as crises in another nation. Let's look at an example of the Iranian treatment towards women, right? So Masa Amini was arrested for not wearing a hijab, and she was eventually murdered. Whether that's yeah, so the Iranian team in FIFA, they stood for her, and how they did that was they brought out the issue, and now the captain is being arrested because by the Iranian government for free speech. So you could view this and say that this example just proves to you that how politicization is necessary to highlight certain issues in sport itself, because it reaches such a big global audience. And if you don't politicize this, like, what it does not if you don't politicize, I feel like it does not support the athletes and their freedom of speech. If you stop that, if you stop them from being vocal about the matters that they feel is important to them, it's like an attack on their own freedom of speech. So in all, so which is better, and what is more urgent, and what benefits the stakeholders the most, which is what we should be viewing as a whole, right, in this debate. So our worst case is that people argue, like like the POIs that you mentioned, there won't be like a certain cut between friendships in certain sporting events. No, why? Because when you bring about these issues, people argue and debate. So it's important to argue and debate against a certain issue so that people can come to a common ground. If everyone is just quiet about the issue, so nothing can be resolved, right? So, and when ideologies are not like challenged, or ideologies are not put out there, we don't operate as a global citizen. And where else are you going to voice out these opinions? Where else? Like, there's no other place where you can have these sort of common grounds. And in our best case scenario, it's very clear, right? We have a global view. We shine the light globally on a few issues, and it promotes more exposure towards certain issues, right? Which is why we feel this sort of politicization is necessary, as the example I gave you of Masa Amini, right? So with that, I have been never prouder to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition. Next, let us invite the Deputy Prime Minister. Here. Deputy Prime Minister, I think you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. Let me start over.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. First of all, I'll be talking about the clashes between the government and opposition, and also be repeating them. First, the opposition mentioned about, like, during the games is when people can talk about their opinion and have the freedom of speech. I believe, like, they can be, like, we're not freedom of speech is people's opinion, and actually this has impacts, which can be positive, can be negative. And to say, like, what the government wants is not to involve any political opinion agenda involved in the sporting events. But that doesn't mean that we also say no to freedom of speech, like to people's opinion, to people's political ideas, but not during the event, not during the international event. There can be some, like, groups or organization, like, after the event is concluded, they can have this discussion, they can have a webinar, and they can use, like, a bit of the what is it called, the event, to promote, like, oh, I'm currently in this and I would like to discuss about this, like, is an option. So to continue, actually, I would like to also add to what my first speaker of the government mentioned, like the definition of international sporting events, which is, like, this is to bring people from different sides of the world, competitors from all around the world, to compete in a honest game. The main point is honest, and always politics is involved with many dirty plays. Depend like, oh, everything involved can be like, oh, we think is negative, like immoral, and some like for the politics they get their benefits, and that's normal to them. So this involves the good and bad. So during the events, we don't want this to interact because it can cause a bigger conflict. Like we want our team to be known for their sports and we want to show sportsmanship in these events. But when politics is brought in, it's only this, what is discussed in this event is only about the politics. This is not the what's our aim for this event. Politics can also, we do not stop people. Freedom of speech is very important and we do not stop others from having that. But that can be concluded after the event is being done. It's been concluded. Like that can be done. We don't stop. Continuing. Also, like if yeah.
If you want to discuss about the issue after the event is done, isn't that still politicization of the sport?
No. After the event, because we believe that during the international events, like we should not include the the involvement of politics. After that, you can state your opinions. There's no irrelevance to the events going on because it has been concluded and it's done, and your opinion is your opinion, and it wasn't included. So if people want to mention about the event, they'll be talking about, oh my God, that the sportsmanship that occurred in there and what happened. That will be what is being said. Like the focus will be on the sport and those who are involved. Like because many people work hard for this, like for many years, and then to come to this program to participate and like, oh, like they also have their own opinion regarding the politics, but that doesn't mean they should state it in during the events. Okay. And also like as I was mentioning, like those people have like they have been working hard for this, like the events for a long period of time. So example, like if they include politics, because politics can, example, they people include politics in organization and in implementing the event. This can have a negative impact. How? Because like if politics occur, like they may be cancelled of the event, like the event may not take place due to some like occurrence like inside during the organization period, and during the events being taking place as well, like there can be some conflicts, there can be like some things being like penalized, being removed from it. And this is like, this is very sad for like the sportmen and sportwomen, those who are taking any sport, any individuals that is partaking in this sport and is participating. It's very sad for them because this is their hope, their aspiration. They really work hard for this. So being taken from that, their hopes and everything, this is not, we would like to eliminate that. And also like promotion and everything can be done. Like example, if people still wants to speak, there can be organization done after the event was concluded to group up together and discuss this, do live. There's many ways of promoting. Actually, the cases of these individuals, they were promoted through many like hashtags and cases like that you mentioned, through hashtag, through people like influencers talking about this issue, through many people, through what is it called, strikes, and many people vocalizing their opinion. True, there are many other ways, and by not taking other people's like rights, that we should be able to voice out our opinion, because we are just thinking about helping, vocalizing our opinion, because you're talking about it as helping others, right? But politics can have both positive and negative. You want to help others, but you're not thinking about the other people, like the sportsmen that are there, that are being like involved in this program, like they have worked hard. You have to also understand them. They're also part of the whole team of other individuals as well. We understand this situation is going on, and actually politics is, there are many people involved, many people, and even to be able to target one to make a change, it's difficult. And but we, like, people still strive to make these changes. So like we have to think about everyone in place, not only those who, but if our actions can also have some impacts on others, like the sportsmen that want to participate and all they are also impacted by this situation. So to conclude, like we need sportmen is about the public, it's about everyone involved. So just to follow one agenda, it doesn't mean you neglect all the other agendas. So you need to find the balance. Like as I mentioned, can be like after the event you organize, you discuss, you promote, you do hashtag, and these are ways of also like stating your speech, like freedom of speech. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister, for that fine speech. Now let us invite the DLO to extend on opposition's case. Here.
I'm sorry, but could I have 1 or 2 minutes? Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Hope I'm audible.
Yep, you're audible.
So I'm Yalin. I'll be the deputy leader of opposition. No preferred pronouns and POIs verbally, please. Thank you. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Now, before I go on my speech on saying why we as the opposition opposed to this motion and why we think we should politicize, ideologies should be politicized in international sporting events, I'll first rebut some of the points given by both the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister. First, one of the major flaws that I see in the Prime Minister's accusations or in the Prime Minister's debate is he was very much focused on this Russian-Ukrainian war, and obviously we as the opposition we have a much more larger view in, but it's okay. We as the opposition we would like to rebut that view, because when he said that, oh, this Russian Ukrainian war, it's not fair for the people because the people aren't making these decisions, politicians are making these decisions. So if we exclude them like we did from the World Cup, and we exclude their sponsors from football, from F1, from tennis, why isn't that a harmful effect upon them? Because they didn't do anything, the people didn't do anything. Here's where I like to ask the questions. When this war occurred, the whole world started having economic sanctions against Russia. The whole world started having trade restrictions against Russia, and who did it hit the most? It hit the people of it hit the Russian people, it hit Russian businesses, and this in turn fired politicians and policymakers to be at least a little bit lenient. If we didn't know, if there was no restriction against the Russian people, and Russians themselves, politicians and the general public alike, didn't feel the heat of what they're doing, then it would not then what we are seeing now wouldn't even be 10% of Russia's full extent. They're looking at this as a discrimination, but we're looking at this as the necessary consequences. And and we as the opposition have a point to deliver upon why these restrictive things, even in football, even in international sports, is necessary. And the second thing was, I'd like to stick points given by the Deputy Prime Minister. The Deputy Prime Minister said that you don't have to talk about it during the sporting event. We can talk about it after the sporting event. I think we all can agree that when the event is occurring, if you bring up those political points, you are politicizing it. So I think without knowing, the Deputy Prime Minister supported the opposition's points of having the right to politicize it. And another point I have against the Deputy Prime Minister is the Deputy Prime Minister is placing this view upon sporting events, saying this, oh, this is a place where people come together. Okay, if my school and another school is playing, yeah, sure, this is a place where people are coming together. But when people are profiting in the billions, international sporting events aren't just sporting events. This is entertainment and this is a business, and we can have ways to make sure that this business, even might it be capitalistic, this business or this form of entertainment has good in it, has some good in it. And they say that the players shouldn't bring in their own politics. This would take away from it. We as the opposition would have a point to bring upon that. Now we would like to go on to the opposition points, and I'll just look at this in two ways: why depoliticizing is wrong and why we need to politicize it. And first, when I say why depoliticizing is wrong, my leader of opposition already extended a few points about this, but I'll just extend it, because you have to understand the fact that we as human beings are individuals. Even if you play tennis for even if you play tennis as an individual, even if you're a football player, even if you're a human being involved in a sport, at the end of the day you are individuals, and individuals have the right to make their opinion heard. When Colin Kaepernick took the knee during the national anthem, that was a personal choice as a personal opinion. Yeah, sure, there was backlash, there was accusations against him. A lot of people hated him, and people said this isn't the beautiful NFL that we know. A lot of accusations were kept against him. But what happened when he brought in his ideological views and his politics into the sport? There was backlash. There was backlash at the beginning, but after one point, even the NFL owners understood that, hey, look, this is an issue. Black Lives Matter is an issue that is being going on, and one individual, Colin Kaepernick is one individual. He decided to politicize it. What happened? All of the NFL owners started kneeling. All of the players that are involved, even if some of them ideologically they did not want to kneel, they showed their support towards it. So what happens when you say this is sports, you cannot politicize it? Again, they are not stating any mechanism or what happens if people do politicize it, the consequences. But I'm just assuming, because the government didn't give us any context to what would happen to people who politicize it. Let's say you say he could be prosecuted for politicizing in an international sporting event. What happens? That builds in fear inside the people. And what happens? People would not, even if they have this anger in between them to say, hey, something is happening against my community, I should politicize it. This is my ideology. This is my right. This is my freedom of speech. We just go, hey, this is an international sporting event. Millions of people are watching. Yeah, this is the best place for your points to go across. But you can't do it because, hey, this is a sport where we should care about people's feelings. We should be like, oh, this is a sport where politics should come into it. That is not right. When the global audience is watching, this is the perfect place to have your political opinions heard. That is why depoliticizing is wrong. And another thing is why we should politicize it is one major thing that has had great strides. It will increase diversity in the sport. A lot of political issues at the end of the day come to discrimination based on race and gender. This has been a big issue, and this is why many things are being politicized, is the discrimination between race and gender. But let's look at the evidence of what happened. I'll take F1. The only black driver that we know is Lewis Hamilton, but I am a person who follows F1 very deeply, and I can tell you, because of his views, because of his ideology of what he brought into the F1 paddocks, there are now more black race engineers in the paddock. There are more black race engineers in the control booths. Last year, when he won when he didn't win, but in Interlagos, when Mercedes had a 1 and 2 pole, it was the first time a female black race engineer got up to the podium in F1. These are making strides. And why? Because he wanted to have his ideology heard inside Formula One. He said black lives do matter, minority lives do matter, women have to be involved in it. Sebastian Vettel is a very prominent F1 driver, and he had his political views. And the environmental crisis should be heard. This is a political issue. We have to hear in it. And what's happening? They're making F1 fuels more efficient. We are changing the world. This is the gateway to change the world. Sports, yeah, for you it might be just a few guys kicking a ball, but for the rest of the people, it's a place where the global citizens come and enjoy this stuff as one. This is the place where you have to politicize it. If you don't politicize it here, where will the global human being look at it? He doesn't have time to look at the UN speeches of major people. He doesn't have time to look at COP26 that happening in amongst the G7 summit. This is where you have to politicize it. This is where the common human being will understand, and he'll go, this is an issue. This is an issue that we have to tackle. And with that, I think that we as the op have the right to completely oppose today's motion on this basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition, for that fine speech. Now let us invite Guff Whip. Here.
Okay, I have my timer ready. 3, 2, 1. Okay, first of all, wow, great debates. Well done, everyone. First of all, yeah, we'll get that out of the way. Great. Look, let me bring you back a few years in time. Like, let's look at the humanity in history a few years ago. I don't remember the exact date right now, but I remember during the First World War, there is a really famous story where during the World War, the Germans and English troops, before the Christmas, made a truce to play football together. And that, do you hear the background noises? Because I cannot focus. The bikes are talking. So basically, because during the World War One, the truce was made between English and German troops to stop fighting for one day, play football to each other, and the reports are after that the soldiers refused to fight in the same area again because they didn't want to kill the people who made friendships with during that day, during that football match, where the politics were completely out of the window and it was just sports. So, what I'm trying to get here is that if you separate politics and these agendas from sports, you will have the better friendships, relationships, and basically people will unite better. Now, it kind of feels to me that opposition is kind of lost between the explanation of free speech and politics. What we are not trying to say free speech should not exist, or the sports people should only mind sports and should not talk about their opinions at all. This is not what we're all about. What we're trying to say is that everything should be its own in its own place. You cannot bring everything together and expect a good result out of it. Uh, for example, the Mahsa Amini example that the first speaker mentioned. As someone who is from that country, I can tell you that involving politics with nothing ever results in something positive way. It more creates fights among people and makes the unity to go away. And I don't mean it in a way that no, the football players should not come out and say Black Lives Matter, because they do. That's free speech and that should be done. And it is being done. But what we're trying to say is that you shouldn't bring it too much, the politicization, and leave the sport and the spirit of sport the way it is today. Because the more you bring these sort of politics and agendas and opinions into sports, the more it will be difficult to maintain the integrity of what it's all supposed to be about. A perfect example is Hollywood, the current status of Hollywood nowadays. Hollywood, just like sports events, is meant to entertain people. But nowadays, the politics and the agendas have been involved with it so much that people do not even create good movies anymore. All of the companies only recreate the thing that has already been created or make a legacy to something that's already existence, add some diversity into it, the politics and agendas comes in, and the quality comes down. And what's the what gives you the assurance that if you bring politics into sports, then you will be able to manage and control and make it remain the quality that it is today? That's why we say politics should not be involved with international sport events. And another thing I really want to point out here is that when, for our friend like mentioned, Lewis Hamilton made the difference that in Formula One nowadays there are more black people. What he did was great, but it doesn't necessarily bring politics and agendas into sports. It just gives everyone free rights because of the free speech that he did. These are completely separate stuff. We are not living in a fascist. Some countries live in fascist world, but okay, go ahead.
It is correlated to politics because when you talk about Black Lives Matter, you talk about policies that help Black people and help issues to be resolved in the Black community. So it does
Yeah,
correlate. So economical
but
things do correlate with policies.
okay, thank you for the question. Completely. Look, you need to identify the line here before you call it politics. First, you need to identify what are you trying to say when you say politics should be involved with sports. Are you just talking about racism? Are you bringing genders into it? Are you bringing corrupted politicians into it? Do you want to what? Like, first you need to identify the line you're trying to talk about here. Racism is one thing, other politics are other things. Now imagine if all of these stuff slowly all come together in the picture of football. What kind of sport will we have in the future? Like, if you want to bring politics, you need to ask yourself, until what distance do I want to go? And you need to keep this in mind, that you have to be realistic about your opinion when you say it. We are not living in utopia or a fantasy world where everything goes to perfection. Usually, when politics get involved, people who get benefits from that politics, people who are part of that community, will always want more. They want more recognition. They want to be heard more. That's why you can never just mention, okay, this politics will come, it will make people be united more to each other, and everything will be great. That's not how humans work. Humans are always thirsty and ambitious for more to earn in this world. And if you want to say bring politics into this world, do you want to draw a line? Because if you want to draw a line, you're contradicting yourself and you are creating a paradox. If you want to stop it at some point, well, aren't you really stopping politics from being involved with sports? And if you don't want to stop it at all, doesn't it ruin the sports in the long term? Because if you think about it, sports cannot remain the same if it's completely involved with the sports. With that said, I want to conclude my speech by saying sports are meant to be fun. Sports are meant to be made for people to get their minds off their normal daily bad things and just be entertained for a few hours. And politics is not a place to go into sports. Thank you so much for listening to me. Yeah.
Thank you, Gov Whip. Now let us invite Opposition Whip to close the substantive speeches in this round. Here.
Hello, can you hear me clearly?
Yep, loud and clear.
Hello? Okay, so my name is Dion and I will be the opposition whip for today. No preferred pronouns, and I would prefer my POIs verbally. So I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So good afternoon, everyone. So what we can hear from side government is that their case is very utopian based, is that they believe that an international sporting events can be completely depoliticized, when in fact they should have been arguing to maintain the current status quo, like remain depoliticized. But even right now in this current status quo, these sporting events are completely politicized. Government is literally everywhere. International. Who do you think are sending these athletes out? Who do you think are sending these teams? Who do you think have been funding them, have been allowing them to train? It's the government, and they think that they can just get rid of government in sporting events just like that. No, that's a complete utopian case. You're living in a nation. A nation has a government. Whether or not you like it, you're gonna have to like see them whenever, see them somewhere, in any part of your life. And in their case,
POI?
they yeah, sure.
Isn't what we said is you cannot separate, like, you're trying to say politics cannot be separated from sports, but at the same time, you're saying we are living in a utopian world. How do you justify that? Because in international sport events, the teams are sponsored by sponsors and companies, not by governments.
These companies need government approval. By the way, I said that your case is utopian, is that you want to completely separate these sports with politics, when in fact they are completely intermingled. There are many factors that come into play when organizing these sporting events. And again, these events, they do not take place every single week, every single month. They take place maybe like once a year, or like the Olympics, maybe once every 4 years. So the coverage that they have is very massive, and the politics that are actually brought inside are not actually so detrimental to the sports that it would actually affect the players in a way that would cause them to lose sportsmanship. And in the case that and you try to bring into this argument a story about some people, some soldiers during wartime, that wanted to play ball and resolve their conflict just like that, when in fact that was during an era of war. Now it's peacetime. However, there are still many underlying political issues that are not being addressed enough by the people of by the people of different countries. And through these international sporting events, by bringing certain political issues into these events, we are bringing to light, we are allowing them to bring to light, these athletes to bring to light the issues that they are facing, and how and it can actually open up to discussion from amongst the globalists, something from people from other countries will actually realize that this country has so many issues, the people are actually suffering, like, and you are going on and on about the sportsmanship, the friendship between the players are ruined. But if it can bring out the issues to millions, do you want to keep 20 people in a football pitch happy, or like get your ideology across to millions, billions across the globe? And all that talk about talking about the advancement, the gender issues, maybe sex issues. I think all of those talks are all political. They are all very intermingled, and you think that you can just depoliticize in sporting events. In your case, when no, hold up. In your case, it would be a very like you're asking us, where do we draw the line? Where do you draw the line? What do you do? What would you do? What are the mechanisms that you would provide to actually depoliticize these sporting events? Like, what would you like punish these people? Would you like shut them up? Would you like disqualify them just because they kneeled at a football game? By the way, he kneeled for against police brutality, which opened up the discussion for millions to defund the police. And if and once that idea came up, it became more logical to control, to, because it's power to the people. What we want is we want power for the people to take action, to take actions against the system that is built against them, that is not built for them, is built against them. And and in our case, even in the worst case scenario, it will only just be many heated debates, heated arguments. Maybe some people fight, but in the end, a conclusion can be made. Issues will be exposed. More and more people get get more understanding of the issues that are very prevalent in society, but we choose to ignore. It dispels the ignorance that you are trying to encourage right now. You are trying to encourage the ignorance of the people and their apathetic attitudes towards the suffering of the suffering of other human beings. When that's complete unhum that's very unhumane of you, honestly. And in your worst case is nothing changed. Nothing changes. People still suffer in silence. Nothing changes. But what we want is we want to allow people to bring these issues into discussion, bring them into exposure, so that they would not they would have an open platform to bring to light these issues. But we are not saying that during these events they keep talking about these issues. They keep talking about the event is long. It's a few days long, and it's the silent protest. For example, the kneeling, the taking off the hijab to oppose Iranian government. It's all of those little things that bring into discussion what is she doing, why is she doing what she is doing, and people go into it. Intrigues people. It prompts people to look into these issues rather than keep ignorant about them, rather than people minding their own business just so they can keep get entertainment for a few hours. Again, it's a few hours, but for the people that are suffering, for the stakeholders, it's the rest of their lives, it's their daily lives that they are suffering through. And we want to allow them to be able to talk about it, give them the opportunity to make a stance. And that will be all from side opposition. Thank you all very much. Proud to oppose.
Thank you, Opposition Whip. Now let's invite the Opposition reply to close out bench. Here, here.
So hello everyone. I'm from the government side, and I'll be starting my reply speech in 3, 2, 1.
Sorry. It's
Can you hear
actually
me?
opposition. It's actually opposition reply first.
First, opposition replies.
Oh, sorry. Then go ahead.
Am I audible? Okay, so starting my reply speech in 3, 2, 1. So I believe the best reason, or the best ways we can identify, again, we as all believe that op completely won today's debate, and the best ways we can see why we as opposition won today's debate is on the basis of the case that was provided by both government and the opposition. Now let's even take government's case, even at its best. Now, what is government proposing? Government is proposing a world where we cannot talk about political issues. We cannot politically sanction, or we cannot sanction um, countries, or we cannot sanction countries in the international sporting field. We cannot do all of this. And what it actually, at the end of the day, it creates a generation which is numb of social issues and numb of their own social responsibilities. Government is trying to create a world where they're saying, oh, only certain people can talk about social and political issues, and only there are certain places where we can talk about these political issues. Or you, as an independent human being, you have a view on it, you want to portray that view in an international arena. Sorry, you can't do that. You can't do that. Only politicians have the right to talk about politics. General public don't, because they're trying to create a world where the general public or the general human being is created to be numb. Oh, there's a football field. Oh, there's a game going on. It is entertainment, but where does the social responsibilities of the people involved in it go? People have to take a stance at one point. How would you feel if the Ukrainian players, because the Ukrainian players, they asked, when the Euro competition was going, they asked UEFA to say, hey, the Russians are doing this massacre, you don't expect us to play against them. There should be some kind of um, a consequence to their actions, or the actions of their country. This is where political debates originate from amongst the people, not UN, not COP 2016, not COP 2023, but this is where ideas grow amongst people. But even if we take government's case at its best, yeah, sure, people won't fight about anything because people won't know about anything. There won't be any fights because there won't be any political disagreements, because there won't be any political ideologies from anyone. This is government's best case scenario. We create a world where we have a generation which is numb of all social issues because we disallowed them from talking about it. Now we concede to even things. We concede to things, saying yes. If you talk about some political ideologies, there might be disagreements between people. We concede. We're not living in an utopian world like the government is. But even in our worst case scenario, take it even at our worst, what we are proposing is a world where people can talk about these things, political ideologies, in the international stage. Yeah, sure, people might disagree, but that's what happens when you talk about stuff. We disagree, but what we create a place for debate. Now in Qatar, this happened. There was LGBTQ protesters, or not to say protesters, but people supporting LGBTQ out and right. And yes, in the Middle East, that is something that is frowned upon. But what happens is it creates a place where you can talk about it. There is disagreements. There will always be disagreements when we talk about it, even in high stages, or even in like places like UN and everywhere. There will be disagreements. But what these disagreements, even in our worst case scenario, even if we create ideological conflict between people, what happens is there will be a place for debate. And when there is a place for debate, at the end of the day, we as humans, we will have the need to find for a common ground. And when we achieve that, hopefully in ops world, when we achieve that, we can create a place where we are more intertwined between us, because we discuss our political ideologies. We don't say I support this, but I won't say it out loud. We're not living in that world. We're living in a world where we are ready to be disagreed, and we're ready for debate, because that is the world we want to live in. So I'd like to end with this speech saying that even in ops worst case scenario, we beat government's best case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, opposition reply. Now for the government reply to close the debate. Here.
Hello. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1, and I'll be starting with the clashes with the government. So first of all, government is talking first. I mean, the clashes with the opposition. First, they say like, how can we make the sports events to be completely diplomatized? Is true the implementation of new proposal, such as like implementing a new like, because involvement of sports events involves like the companies, and also you mentioned the companies are also being held by the government. So first of all, we need to like only like allow one organization, one ruler to decide, and this ruler, he's like, we choose in the best interest of everyone, and also they're very well they follow the laws, such as like not allowing like any any political agendas in the situations, like restricting, and also not not allowing anyone do continuing. So this government will choose who is involved and who can, and political should not be part, because if political is continuing to be part, political is not only about voicing out your opinion, it's also about like bad people taking advantage of the situation. So this needs to be stopped. This needs to be stopped. So if this continues, this is not going to end well. And also about those who are, they choose to voice their opinion, like political opinions in the revenue, in the events, in the sports events. They the steps that can be taken against them can be like maybe they get probation for the next few times, for the next sports events they're not allowed to participate. The reason why is like we should separate sports events and politics, because politics can occur in other areas. It doesn't have to be on the events. The events involves many people, many individuals, organizations, and politics has the negative impact. It has more negative than positive. We're not saying rights of speech should be like no one should talk, no one should say what is their opinion. No, everyone has speech of freedom, but it can be done in other places, such as like individuals and organizations can come together, make decisions, make protests, such as what was done previously. But it doesn't have to be doing it in the event, because events is not only about, if we allow the politics for people to voice out, there's other parts of politics where the governments, like dirty place by the governments or any other companies or anyone involved, and this affects everyone in general. So like we need to stop that. We need to like put a stop on that. Like voicing our opinion, freedom of speech is important. We acknowledge that, but it shouldn't be in this area. It can be done in areas such as like people coming together, organization coming together to make decision and letting out they talk about the law. They can implement, they can start a policy, make proposal, issue out things. There's many things that can be done if a group of people come together, but it doesn't have to be in this event that has to take place, because this event is about people from worldwide, because it's an international, people from worldwide coming together to play and participate, make friendship, have an honest game. Honesty is very important. It was the base of the sports events. The base of the sports events is honesty, and if honesty is neglected, then this sports event is doomed. If it continues like this, the negativity that we'll be receiving will be so much higher than any positive that will come out. Only the positive is those who are taking advantage. Those are the only ones that will get that. So we need to stop. We need to be able to stop them by implementing laws such as policies for like those who can be involved in the events making in the organization, the government sides, and also the companies involved. There has to be a management involved in that, and also for like precautions, laws taken for those who make any like try to upset this law. There will be precautions. And also you were talking about the consequence of these people that, you know, we by doing that we are able to get them the consequence. Also you can do this consequence. There can be protests, there can be strikes, there can be all this. When people like hashtags on the Instagram, there are many ways to like support a issue, like to voice out your issue. There are many other ways. It doesn't have to be in this event that is livelihood for many people. Many people are participating in this event, their families and friends, they're supporting, they're expecting, and there are many things involved. Like if you decide to bring politics into this, you're affecting many lives. Yeah. Is that it?
Sorry, your speech is over time.
Okay. So to conclude, yeah, there's many negative aspects, and depoliticization should occur, and it should be legalized. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gov Reply, for that fine speech, and thank you to everyone for that debate.